Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Today on the program, we're focusing on the political economy and transforming Nigeria's economy through it. And I'm talking with the Managing Director of Cowry Assets and Management Limited, Johnson Chukwu. Thank you so much for sticking around.
Thank you.
Well, just before we went on break, you talked about payment of taxes and how states can actually use this to run themselves. Now, under the current constitution, we know that states can only earn revenue from payee. But corporate tax and customs duties go to the center, that's the federal government. Is this not a problem for internally generated revenue? Is this not a problem for the states?
Well, I don't think it's a major problem. The only one I will actually suggest is that value-added tax should go to the states where the consumption takes place.
Why?
Because in the case of value-added tax, where the consumption has a negative effect or has some side effect, take for instance people that take alcohol, okay, and you charge withholding tax on VAT on consumption of alcohol, but then the side effects of those who consume alcohol will be borne by the state, like the drunkards that could actually become drunkards because they take a lot of alcohol. The federal government takes the revenue and shares to all the federating states, well as the state takes the burden. Now, apart from that, I think in the case of corporate tax,
all right,
it is proper that it should go to the federal government. The reason is that a corporate organization, in most instances, do not operate only in one state. For instance, Cowry has presence in our 4 states. So, if our corporate tax is going to be borne, be collected by Lagos State government, for instance, what happens to Rivers State government? We have a branch. What happens to Anambra State? What happens to Imo State? What happens to Abuja, where we have our regional office? So, in the case of corporate organizations, because sometimes the activities may actually cut across several states. So, I understand the federal government collecting that, but also the federal government also has some direct responsibilities for this issue funding of tertiary education, funding of tertiary health care, building of Trunk A highways, okay, maintaining the armed forces, maintaining the diplomatic offices, and several other federal government exclusive responsibilities. But beyond that, the state's revenue from payee, which is why I say, look, if we have federal fiscal federalism, the states will be compelled to begin to build infrastructure that will encourage citizens to come and live in their states, they will encourage economic growth and enhance earnings of its residents, so that they will collect more revenue.
Okay, now let's give this example. You know that Lagos State actually has one of the largest internally generated, the largest in terms of internally generated revenue. Now, what is Lagos State doing that other states cannot replicate?
Well, I think that Lagos has turned to a test. I think Kano State, for instance, is trying to do that, replicate what Lagos is doing. I also know a state like Edo State is also trying to build its tax revenue. I mean, they've done about 300% increase since Adams became a governor. And I also know Kano State, since Chukwu came back, has done an increase of more than 200% in terms of internally generated revenue. The basic fact is that because Lagos State is collecting tax from its citizens, Lagos State also its responsibility to give back to the society, to provide those services, those common services, those common goods that are associated that the federal government should provide, is also very high. So you see that the contract, the civil contract between the society and the government in Lagos State is stronger than you have in most other states, where the states only go to the federation to collect revenue and spend as they like. I give you a classical example. If you come to a place like Lekki Phase 1, you find out that over the past 6 years of Fashola's government, virtually the roads have been paved. Because the Lagos State government realized that it gets a lot of tenement rent, land use charge from Lekki. And because it does that, it has built infrastructure in Lekki. The citizens that live in Lekki are eager to pay their annual land use charge. So you have for you to have economic growth, for you to have strengthen your political structure, you must ensure that the civic duty of the government is strengthened, and that the citizens have oversight and overriding authority over those who govern them. And that can only come if the citizens have a financial stake in it, in the governance. States where no tax is collected, they are not interested in how governance is done. They are only interested during election period to get handouts from politicians. But where you pay your taxes, you know that your consumption is reduced because you have to pay your taxes. You want to find out what the government is doing. You want to find out who is in governance, and you want to participate in electing the right people into governance. And those who get into governance under such situation know that they cannot go and demand for tax from citizens if they fail to carry out their own part of the contract. So for you to grow an economy, for us to develop, we must go back to a situation whereby citizens are made to abide by their civil responsibilities, while as those in government are also compared by the citizens to carry out their duties as it relates to public infrastructure, social goods, security, and all the rest.
No, in light of all of this, what can actually be done to give states more revenue jurisdiction, resuscitate their economic viability so that they depend less and less on oil? Because remember that the federal government is trying as much as possible to diversify away from oil. And so whatever is going to be coming in now to the excess crude account, whatever is going to be coming in there now is going to be used to run other things and not probably be given, they won't be given as much to the state. So before that actually happens, how can states begin to position themselves in such a way that they do not get caught off guard?
Well, you see, there's only one way, and that way is that the states have to go back and address the issue of internally generated revenue. There is no magic wand. Oil price is going to get more unstable. Crude oil is threatened in Nigeria. I mean, I was reading this morning that the Niger pipeline has been breached again, and that's about the 5th breaching in the last 5 months.
And of course, Shell has had to shut down.
150,000 barrels have been shut in, and about 500 million standard cubic feet of gas has also been shut in. So we will continue to experience that until we have a situation of fiscal federalism. I'll tell you why fiscal federalism is very important. Those breaches are happening around Ogoni, around River State. If the River State government relies on that revenue for its activities, it will police that pipeline. If the citizens of the place know that the breach of this pipeline will affect them directly in terms of government's ability to carry out its duties to the citizens, they will not breach that pipeline. So you're going to find a situation whereby the contract between the governed, and those in government will be stronger if we have fiscal federalism. Because those states where the oil pipelines are being breached will have more compelling reason, because if they do not generate revenue, they're not going to get anything to pay salaries. They're not going to get anything to do infrastructure. But because whether they generate or not, everybody goes cap in hand to the federal government at the end of every month and shares the revenue, and then there's no compelling need to develop necessary infrastructure to grow your local economy.
Okay, so now apart from internally generated revenue, what else can the states be doing to make themselves economically viable?
Well, you see, some states have actually, let's look back at our history. In the then eastern Nigeria, under Emir Akpara, the government brought gas pipeline Taba. The government of Emir Akpara developed the Transamadi industrial layout, and therefore attracted Michelin and several other companies to that locality. The government of Emir Akpara built the presidential hotel in Enugu and presidential hotel in Port Harcourt as government-owned assets, and those were sources of revenue generation. Let's look at the modern day. Go to Akwa Ibom State, and you find out within a period of 6 years, the government of Akwa Ibom State, under Akpabio, has been able to transform Akwa Ibom State to almost a tourist center. People are leaving Lagos to go and hold their retreat in New York because he built a 5-star hotel there. So government can actually build compelling infrastructure to attract other organizations to that location. And that's when you look at the location of industries. You look at, there are some infrastructure you can develop and you attract other things. If government can invest in economic infrastructure, provided it does not manage it. Like the Le Meridian in New York is managed by Meridian Hotels, but the asset is owned by Akwa Ibom State government.
So how
and the revenue from that still comes to Akwa Ibom State government.
Okay, now let's look at the fact that recently there was the Federal Executive Council actually approved a new automotive policy. Now we know that we're going to have a lot of car manufacturers wanting to come into Nigeria to start their business. We have states that have most of the resources they're going to be looking for. Ajakuta, where the iron ore and the rest of them are, the states where you have the rubber plantations and the rest of it. How can these states begin to position themselves to get themselves ready for these foreign investors? Well, because they're not going to come in and go to the Federal Capital Territory. They're not going to come in and come to Lagos State, even though it is a commercial nerve center of the country. But they're going to be wanting to situate themselves in these states where they can easily get the materials, the raw materials they're going to be using to work with. How can the states begin to get themselves ready?